Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about something that gives many moms sleepless nights: sending their first child off to college. Mindy's oldest started college last August, and now she's going to tell us what that first year was like. We'll talk about choosing a college, move-in day, dorm life, visits home, and all the emotions a mom feels throughout freshman year. Let's get started. Hey, Mindy.
Hey, good morning, Marie.
I'm so glad to see you today.
It is great to see you.
We are by ourselves today, listeners. Julie is visiting her daughter. So while she's away, we thought we must go on with the recording. And something that I've been wanting to talk to Mindy about for a while is how it has felt for her first daughter to be finishing up her first year of college.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, what's the year leading up to that first drop off at college like? What is the process of picking a college? What are the emotions like when your child finally goes away to college? How does it work when they come back home? I just think there's a lot in that first year. And even though I've had two kids go through it, you really forget pretty quickly.
Yes, because there's so much changing and surviving. And it's going to be a really great conversation. And it's so ironic because we're talking about Abby Ray and I'm taking Grant on college visits next week. So, we're in it again.
I know. Where it really gets down to the brass tacks, I feel like you think, okay, we are on the journey, is when your child takes either the ACT or the SAT as a junior. Yeah. And it's kind of like, all right, the school now has said, you are on this path.
Right.
The testing companies have said, here's your child's score. And you really have about a year from there that you really start looking at colleges. And by the next year, around that time, a lot of kids will have started to make decisions on where they're going.
Yes.
So let's start out there, Mindy. Like, what is that year like leading up to college?
Well, goodness, senior year, as any mom will testify, is just so full of emotions. You feel like everything that you've done, like you said, has led up to this point. And now all of a sudden, you're at senior year and you feel like there's this great ending of things and you see the end and you feel like it's the culmination of what you've poured into this child. And you're starting to look at colleges and you're excited about that. At the same time, you're so devastated because you just don't know with that first child what it looks like after. And so everything feels like just the end of this season that you've had, and you finally understand what all the moms meant when they told you, enjoy the time, it will go fast. You're finally at the point of saying, I finally get it. Yes, it went so fast. You go between crying and this excitement for their future. And so that's the only way to describe that year leading up to college. And then all of the things you have to do to try to end senior year well. You've got senior nights for different things. At the same time, you're testing, you're doing ACT or SAT, you're trying to get a score, you're trying to get in, as much scholarship money as possible. You could be interviewing for full ride scholarships. There are so many things. You've got one foot ending in this world while you're straddling the fence, and one foot is starting to tiptoe in this new world that you have no idea what it's like. And when she first took that ACT early junior year, I think, and we saw the score, we started, you start visiting colleges and you look at the scores and they've got it laid out for you in a nice PowerPoint presentation. If you get between this and this, you get this much scholarship money. If you get between this and this, you get this much scholarship money, and it goes up from there. So we kind of sat down and we said, look, we will invest in you. We will pay for an ACT prep course because it will help you get the better return on your time and investment to pay for school. She was committed to that. The end of her junior year, she was doing school, she was working, and she was doing an extra hour and a half or more of ACT prep work for the last 3 months of her junior year. Mm-hmm. She was determined to not have to worry about it her senior year. And she wanted that off her back. So she had a score that she wanted to get. She worked really hard. and she got it. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That does not happen all the time.
Right. Right.
That is just her case. That will not be the case with my other children, I don't think.
Well, I know that I was very clueless about even ACT prep courses before I got to a child that age. And I didn't do like an official one. I was talking to a mom who had kids a little bit older than mine, and she told me about a friend that she had that ran a prep course 4 Sundays in a row right before you took the ACT your junior year. And it was inexpensive. She was a former teacher.
Wow.
And so I didn't really know of anything else to do. So I signed my kids up for that. And it made a big difference in their scores. So I think, look into prep courses, either like real official ones or ones that the school offers. I mean, all that stuff is very helpful for your child.
It is. It is. It prepared her. It teaches you how to take the test. It's not that your child isn't smart enough, any child out there, but it's a game to play. And I will call it that, because learning to master a test like the ACT or the SAT is a skill set that has to be learned.
Mm-hmm.
It does not necessarily come naturally.
No. And I don't know if you were like this, but, at the time I took the SAT, that's what our school took. I mean, I think we were told probably 1 or 2 days before the test. We were pulled out of class, plopped at the library, took it. There was no offering of prep course. There was no offering to even retake it. That was your score, and that's what you sent out. But that's not how it is anymore. And at first I was like, well, I don't need to do all that. But you really kind of do, especially because the colleges make it very clear up front.
Yep.
If you can achieve this score, then we'll give you this much money.
It's the best way to get money from a school, because you're not applying for a scholarship that you don't know. This is, it's A equals B. So we thought, okay, that's great. That's the route we'll go.
All right. So how did you pick your college?
Oh, this was a lot of fun. I want to encourage parents to just have fun with this. Pick a variety of schools. Like, even if, so my son right now, he is really excited to go to a large school. So we've looked at Penn State. We're going to go look at University of Tennessee in Knoxville. But we're going to also couple those with some different schools. We're going to make sure we look at a private Christian school. We're going to make sure we look at a community school. And then we're going to look at University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, where my daughter is. It's a public school, but it's also smaller. Mm-hmm. So I would say really try to have a variety, because you never know how your child will feel on that campus.
Right.
Because with Abby Ray, we saw that she changed her mind her senior year. And we've heard so many stories of students changing their mind from what they originally thought. So it's great to give yourself some options.
And even as a parent, you can go into it thinking, I'm not going to really like this school.
Right.
And then you go on the tour and there's so many things that you learn that it really changes some of your preconceived ideas. Or you might think, I really will like this school, and then you go on the tour and you don't. It's really important to go to the school.
It is important. And I would even encourage going a couple of times.
That's a good point.
Possibly, because once you've seen kind of your first round of colleges, and this happened with Abby Ray, she was certain she was going to go to a particular school. We had visited UTC, UTK, Lipscomb, and I can't remember what else, but she was certain she was going to go to Lipscomb. She went to this summer program at Lipscomb, couldn't hardly wait to go back, as a freshman in college. She didn't even want to come home for senior year. She loved it so much.
Oh, wow.
But ironically, when senior year hit and we start looking at the budget, we start talking, she wants to be a nurse, and details kind of start aligning for her plan. We had originally written off UTC. That was not really of interest. We had visited. She didn't really care for it. But after learning just some different things about the colleges, and even the city that you'll live in at the college is a really big deal. You have to pay attention to that. We decided that she wanted to go back and tour UTC again early senior year. And ironically, when we went the second time, it was completely different than the first time. But I'll also encourage parents that if your child knows a friend at that college, have your child link up with them. Try to go into their dorm room. Talk to them one-on-one during the visit. So do the school tour. Go eat at their kind of cafeteria area. Check out the Starbucks, check out,
Sure. Yeah.
the student union, the rec center, all of these life activities. But if you can go with a one-on-one student that they know and see their dorm room and talk to them about just their everyday life, that makes a huge difference. And so we did that the second time, and it just changed everything. We were walking around that campus and we marked every other place off the list. And we're like, we really think this is it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which was a complete turnaround from the first time we were on campus and we said, nah, this really isn't for us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And dorm rooms make a big difference.
Yes.
UTC, the dorms were so much nicer than a lot of other places that really played a big part because Abby could see living there. It's like shopping for a house. If you can visualize yourself living there, that's probably going to be the house you pick.
Yes, that's really good. So once you decided on a college, how did you start preparing? I mean, you have to get items for that dorm room and you need to find a roommate and you need to get them feeling at home there. And why don't we back up just a little bit? Because you said that you moved. So while you're going through this process, you and your husband are also unsure if you'll even be staying in Tennessee.
That's true. He was interviewing a lot of different places. We were really uncertain, but we had to make one decision at a time. A lot of prayer went into all of this. Prayer over the school, prayer over where we would end up accepting a job. But we had to just know that the decision we made for Abby Ray was separate from the decision we were going to be making for his job. We had to separate those. We just couldn't do otherwise. So we very much felt at peace about Abby Ray's school decision. There's a lot of freedom too. I'll tell parents that when you do finally make that college decision final, it gives you a freedom and an excitement that wasn't there before. When you're in the process, it's kind of fun to look, but there's this, there's a little anxiety that's kind of hanging back in the back of your mind until that decision is final. So once you've made that final college decision, you can just have fun getting excited. You can see where your child's going to go. You can start planning for it. And so that is the fun part. Now, there's a lot out there on Pinterest for college dorm rooms, and it's easy to get a little overwhelmed thinking, wow, do we need to have like the headboard and the matching, bedding and there's so much stuff out there that you can do for a dorm room. First of all, maybe start out with a budget.
That's a good point.
There's the items that your child has to have. And so you can go ahead and start doing those. And there are really good lists out there. You can find a good college essentials list. You can get one off Pinterest. Bed Bath & Beyond has lists hanging all around their store that you can just rip off, take with you. Now, things are a little more expensive there, but you can take the list for free. And then your college will also publish a list. So between all of the lists, you should be pretty set.
Right.
We were really prayerful about the roommate. There's different ways to go about picking a roommate. You kind of hear the horror stories of going to school with your best friend, having a falling out, and never talking to each other again. Thankfully, we were not in that situation because none of Abby's best friends were going to go to the same school. We kind of thought, well, do we, pick someone that, they have almost like a Facebook page, I think is what it is, that they can fill things out. And some schools will help match you with a roommate, or you can do it the old fashioned way and let the college pick for you, which we have some of her friends that did that. Abby found a friend that she went to school with, but they weren't like best friends. And they found out they were going to go to school together. And I would say that they were just very compatible because they both had different interests, but they got along well together, but they didn't have like competing interests, if that makes sense. And they also both really cared about having a calm place to live. They both cared about having time alone, though they also wanted to have a friend when they wanted to be with people. So they were just very compatible. And so Abby Ray and Rose decided to room together. And we were very happy about that. And it really has been a great year for those two. There was some shopping that we did together, but actually Abby Ray and Rose, once they decided to room together, They talked about what colors they wanted to do. They talked about how to coordinate. We were going to have to buy bedding anyway. And I actually let them go and shop together.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of fun because it was like the girls like decorating their first apartment.
Yes, that is really fun. And there is definitely, listeners, if you have boys and you're thinking, I can't even get my son to pick out a college bedding. There is definitely a big difference between decorating the dorm room for a girl and decorating the dorm room for a boy. Now, are Rose and Abby going to live together next year?
Ironically, no, but they are part of a bigger friend group that they've made over this past year. And so they're actually going to still be in the same dorm.
Okay.
But like Abby Ray's going with like this part of the friend group and Rose is going with this friend group, but they all hang out together.
Oh, good.
And so it's really cool because I could see Abby Ray and Rose being friends forever.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them kind of like, we need some time together because they really have been through a lot together and they've really learned how to live with each other, which is a skill.
It is a skill.
You have to really learn how to live with somebody.
Let's talk for a minute just about so many places offer a private room. Would you advise parents to do the private room? And this is budget is no object. They can afford both.
Okay.
Or would you advise them to do the roommate?
This is a really great question. Her top 3 dorms that she picked had the opportunity to be in like an apartment style dorm with 4 girls, but 4 separate rooms in that apartment. So she could actually go in her room and shut the door if she needed to. Mm-hmm. She did not get any of those. She, however, got a dorm that was brand new, which was awesome. How often do you get a brand new dorm?
Right.
So she ended up in a brand new dorm, but she was going to be in a room with someone, and it's kind of suite style. So 2 girls share one bathroom, and then there's another 2 girls that share another bathroom, and they have a shared foyer. I am so thankful that she ended up where she is. And I heard someone say in one of the presentations that freshmen in particular really need to be with and around, forced to be with and around other people that freshman year. A lot happens that freshman year. And I know that Abby has one friend in particular that never ended up with a roommate in her room. And she really struggles. I love that Abby is in a room with Rose. There's going to be times of sickness. There's going to be times of sadness. There's going to be times of loneliness. You know, these bouts, these emotions hit. And it's good to be near someone when they do. And also, Abby Ray and Rose they really clung to each other first semester. Like they did a lot together. They went most places together. And I think it was just good that they weren't alone. Mm-hmm. Now, next year, Abby was able to get the dorm where she can go in and close her door, but she's in an apartment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that freshman year is different than all the other years.
Abby and Rose needed each other. Rose's family was still close and we were far away. And we'll talk about that more later, but we moved Abby in and exactly 1 week later moved 11 and a half hours away from her. Loved knowing that she had someone in her room. And I'll mention Rose more later because I just am endeared forever to that precious girl over this past year. And I'm so thankful Abby was with her.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right. Well, what is move-in day like? It's hot and your husband has to carry a lot.
Oh, my goodness. Move-in day. So the day you dreaded or looked forward to is here. And you have all of this stuff that you have to try to move in. We had our minivan and we had our 6 people. And we all had to try to fit in that. So it was actually really funny. We had staged the things that she needed. I would say find a spot in your house, maybe your dining room if you don't use it, kind of like that was us. We had her stage everything in the dining room so that we could see all the stuff that needed to go in. So you can add to it. You can look at it kind of over maybe a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of emotions when you wake up that day and the day is there. Like you have made it. We got everybody in the van and we stuffed everything in the van. We literally look like the Beverly Hillbillies. I will be happy to share a picture of our drive But it was fun. It was an exciting day. I was worried about my emotions because you just don't know. Like, you don't know how you're going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still at war within yourself. But I was so excited that it was there. So we had good music playing in the van. We sang all the way there. When we pulled into Chattanooga, the song "I'm Only One Call Away" by Charlie,
Oh.
that came on and we were singing it, and I was like, "Oh, Abby, this is for you." And we all kind of sang it to her. And then we get there and it's chaotic, and they have all these helpers on hand, and we've got all the boys, and they're helping just cart, from the van upstairs, and you're making all these trips. Well, so then you finally get everything in, and then we were like, okay, this room is really small, and like we're all here and Rose's family's all here, and we're all trying to do this stuff all at the same time. And so we quickly sent the boys to go play on their electronics in the community room right down the hall. We were like, they need to just get out of here.
There's not enough room for two families in those dorm rooms.
There is really not. Like, we did as much as we could. And I kind of had this view that we would get everything settled and beautiful. We would get these great pictures of her room all decorated beautifully. But, it didn't really go that way. First, I made sure that Abby and Rose had plans for after we left.
Well, that's a good idea.
That is a crucial piece of information. It helped me to know that she had someplace to go for dinner. And that it was going to be with friends. So it really helped to know that she and Rose made plans for that evening.
Mm-hmm.
So we did as much as we could. And I was like, okay, we started putting things in drawers, and we started, organizing the closet, and we hung the curtains, and we got the TV set up, and we got to a point where we could have hung some more stuff on the wall. They had some decorations that they were going to hang up. But Bryce and I felt like, you know what? We kind of feel like we shouldn't do all that, because we noticed we wanted her and Rose to treat this as their room.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up leaving before everything was done. And I think the girls appreciated it, because Abby told me after that her and Rose really enjoyed when everything was quiet. They talked about how they wanted to decorate the room. And then they hung things on the wall, and they really just took ownership, and they have loved their room.
Oh,
and
good.
It's not like Pinterest worthy necessarily, but it's theirs, and they decorated it, and they love it, and they set it up. And so we got her to a point, and then we felt like we needed to leave, and we needed to let her make that her own. That leaving part, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we weren't just leaving her and driving an hour and a half away. We were leaving her and moving 11 and a half hours away in a week. That was really hard for both of us. And Bryce is so good. He had taken time and written Abby this beautiful letter just about life. And, if you make mistakes, you can still come home, and that we're going to love you, and that this is a great time in your life, and the Lord has prepared you for this. And it was just the most beautiful, thoughtful letter. Well, come to find out, she had written us a letter, and we found it when we got to the van and we're driving home.
Oh.
So I know. So I'm driving because I need something to do with myself. I cannot just sit in the passenger seat and think. I'm like, I just need to drive. Okay. So Bryce read the letter, and I'm just, sniffling like this, and the boys instinctively knew to be quiet.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's hard. It's hard to leave.
It is hard to leave. I can remember when we had finished decorating Abigail's room, and her roommate, I don't think, was going to show up for another day or so. So we were actually leaving her in a room where there wasn't somebody. And she didn't know anyone on her hall.
Oh, no.
And that was really hard to walk out the door.
Yeah.
It was hard for her. It was hard for us. It was hard to know that, okay, she has to take it from here. And there's nothing more that you can really do. You've finished the decorating, and now it's over. I think
Oh,
That is the hardest thing to do, is to
yes.
just walk away then.
Yeah. And isn't that so often, like, even through the whole year, it's a hands off as a mom that
Yeah.
you would like to be able to know how they're doing at all times or know how they did on this test they were concerned about. But you don't get to just be there. You don't get to all the time hear that they're doing okay, which they're probably doing okay.
Yeah, or
But
they
you
may
don't.
not be. I think that first week
Yeah.
can be really hard for all of
Yes.
them. They just may or may not tell you. Like, you should probably just
Yes.
know that it's hard.
But yeah, you both have to go in knowing that just life is changing and there's going to be good moments and there's going to be sad moments. I'm thankful for the colleges that they know it's difficult and they plan so many fun activities for these
Mhm.
kids on campus. They keep them busy. And I
Right.
would encourage your child to go to all of the events, all the free food.
Yes. Like with our oldest, and I don't remember if we did this with our second one. He was a little farther away, so it wouldn't have been as easy. He was 3 hours away and she was only an hour and a half. We told her, you can't come home for a couple weeks. It would have
Oh,
been real
yeah.
easy for her to get in the car and drive
Right.
home that first weekend or that second weekend. And we
Right.
said, you stay here. We will come and visit you on Labor Day. I don't think she came home
Oh,
for a whole month after we had dropped her off, just because I wanted to force her to have to find something to do on the weekends. I think
yeah.
that's really hard for college students. Some schools have a lot going on the weekends,
Right.
and it's not a problem, and some schools don't. But
Right.
it's almost like you need to say to your child, you know your child best. Maybe they're going off
Right.
to college and they say, hey, I'll see you at Thanksgiving.
Right.
But I knew that given the choice, she would probably get in the car and drive home. And I
Yeah.
wanted to make her find things to do on the weekends.
I think that that's really smart to have your child stay at school over some weekends because Abby quickly made friends that way. Whereas if we did live closer, she would have probably run home a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And then Rose stayed at school with Abby. I don't know if it was for Abby's sake because she
Mm-hmm.
knew that Abby was alone and missing her family, or if it was for her sake. But either way, her and Rose have had just a great year together. And they both did a really good job of just checking out all the different fun activities and they kept themselves busy
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And I was so thankful. Every time I saw pictures, they were out doing something else with some other group and they had a blast.
Oh, that's good. All right. So how was the week after move-in day for you, Mindy? We've talked about how hard it is for our college kids, but what is it like for
Yeah.
the mom?
It's harder. It was so weird for me because I really had to compartmentalize my feelings. I knew that I was missing her. And I also knew I had a lot to do to move out of our home because we moved her into school. Well, then I had to come home and I had to stage our house because
Mm.
that day we were having professional pictures taken of our house and yard. And so everything had to be perfect, look perfect. And so I quickly got into that. Well, then the day after that, I had to start packing then for us to move to Pennsylvania. And so then, like everything that I had gotten beautiful, I had to start taking apart because some things I was taking, most of the stuff I was leaving. But I also, I have just some of the sweetest friends that knew what was going on in my life. And they told me the day after you take Abby Ray, we are coming to kidnap you away from your house and take you out. And
Mm.
so I had three friends, Stephanie, Kim, and Kim, and they came and kidnapped me and we all went to brunch. And then they said, okay, so what do you need? Like, what can we help you with? And so I said, I really need a floral arrangement of some sort for my foyer table. That's like the
Mm.
one spot I need something for. So we went to brunch and then we went to some different stores and had a blast. And they helped me put this together. Came back to the house and we set it all up and everything. It was just really sweet. Like they knew that I was going to need friend time and they they were there. They came and they took me out of my house and they helped me.
Yeah.
So,
I think while you were talking, I was thinking, I think that is a really important thing to encourage people to do. You don't have to be moving to plan some things for that first week. It's important to plan some things for yourself so that you aren't just dwelling or thinking. It's important for you to get out with friends or have an event or even take a little mini trip or something that you've been wanting to do just to sort of distract yourself. You're not trying to bury those feelings, but you need a little bit of distraction.
No, it was so nice and thoughtful. And I don't think I knew I needed that, but they perceived that. And I'm so thankful that they did. So then, I mean, really, we're just packing. And there were times that I would just cry, like, and I would be arranging my linen closet, making it, beautiful for the house to be listed. And we had music kind of blasting through the house because I just work better when there's music playing. And the song One Call Away came on and I just lost it because I was like, we sang this to her on the way to drop her off.
Yes, it's amazing how much listening to music can make you start crying.
It's like, okay, I love the song. Skip.
Right.
That was kind of the first week.
And it's hard because you don't have feelings of like just devastation. I mean, you obviously want your child. You're thankful your child has grown up and has been accepted to college and is in college. And like you wouldn't change that, but you're sad because a period of your life is over,
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because there's nothing I would have changed. I would have not held her back from her life. It was absolutely appropriate, the steps that were taken, but you are sad. You really are closing one stage and walking into another one. And if this is your first child, you've never walked that before, so you just don't know what that is like, and it can be a little scary.
Well, how did you handle just college life? Like once you get past the emotions, pretty quickly you move into the nitty gritty of, okay, they are calling you for money. They are calling you for help with different life things that you've maybe been the advisor for in the past, or food, eating out, shopping. Do they get a job? How many clubs should they join? There's just so many things that come up those first few weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot. We tackled the money before she left. We all were on the same page. And I think that was very helpful for her to go to college with budget in hand that Bryce had made. She did not have a car her first semester. And we pretty much just left it up to her. We said, it was an interesting situation because we really could have left her a car because we were moving so far away. And so she was like, but I don't feel like I need a car right now. Everything that I'm doing is on campus. And so we kind of left it at, tell us when you need a car and we'll make sure you have a car. But until then, she did not have a car. We made sure she had a really good meal plan so that she would not go hungry. And then she had actually built up her bank account from working like junior and senior year. And so we met all of her needs financially, but we did have her set up on a budget because she eventually would be paying for certain things, that were extra. And so then any like the eating out or shopping or whatever, she could choose to spend her own money on things that were extra. But that's every parent and every child kind of has to navigate this differently. But she also didn't get a job right away. And I liked that. I like that she wasn't working right away because she was really trying to adjust. Though she did decide and found a job towards the end of her first semester of freshman year. And that was perfect because then leading in to second semester, now she works around 20 hours a week at this job. Lots of phone calls home, though. I mean, you're navigating a lot.
Yes. And it could be your own child particularly maybe if they're a boy, you may not hear that much the first week, but actually that may be good. Sometimes no news is good news.
Right.
You just kind of have to feel that out. One thing we were told at orientation was let your college student initiate the first few phone calls and kind of set up the pattern of how often they feel comfortable in contact, and so we kind of waited for them to start texting or calling us to get a feel for, do they want us to bother them or are we bothering them, or do they like us just being saying hello? Like, you kind of have to feel that out.
I know I was really careful because we'd moved so far away. I knew she was having a lot of emotions about that we really didn't necessarily totally talk through, because I did let her tell me what she wanted to tell me about it. And I think that she really relied on friends during that time. She was really trying to learn how to stand on her own 2 feet.
Right.
And how to live on her own and try to make decisions on her own. But we found there's different social media outlets that I love. And I have Snapchat on my phone only for Abby Ray. And that started when she went to college, because we can send each other little pictures and little messages. And we do that like all the time. And so it became a really easy way to kind of check in. I get to see her face. She writes me a little message and we're good to go. And I can tell you, like, all in all, you worry about those like late night phone calls, or, we haven't had many phone calls where she's just devastated over something. There've probably been 2 all year. And so I'm thankful for that.
So they're at school. They are handling things pretty well, or maybe not so great, but either way, they're there.
Yes.
What was it like to have her home for her first break? When was that for you guys?
We had her home for her fall break, which was in October. So we went from kind of early August to, I think it was like mid to late October.
Okay.
Without seeing her. And so we flew her home then for fall break. And then we flew her home a month later for Thanksgiving break. And then a month later was Christmas break. So we knew once we got past like that big chunk of time at the beginning, we would have these more regular times to see her. And it was very interesting having her come back in the door after having moved to a new state. Our family dynamic changed a lot. She's the only girl, and which adds a lot. It's amazing how her leaving, like the boys, I think, forget that I'm still a girl. But she really adds so much to our family. So when she left, I mean, there's this emptiness a little bit. We're still a large family, but instead of 6 plates for dinner, I'm getting out 5. And so that's just interesting. So to have her home, it was so exciting. At the same time, it brought its own surprises with it. I was surprised to see that my son Jacob was somewhat guarded with her. They had been really close, but I think that he knew she was going to have to leave again. And it's almost like he really wanted to guard his heart because he loved having her. At the same time, he had almost essentially moved up a step in the family since the oldest was gone. It's like the boys kind of, moved up. They got more attention. They got, whatever. So she comes back in and she's like treating them like normal, like she's bossing them around and
like normal they're not stuff. Having any of that
They're
anymore.
like, I don't think so, Abby. Like, you've moved out and now we get to move up.
Right.
There was a little bit of friction that I was surprised about. Even though everyone was like happy she's home, at the same time, it's like, you can't tell us what to do. Like, you don't even live here. And she's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually asked Abby Ray this question too. How was that like coming home? She said it was so much fun, but there was a struggle because I'd had time to kind of become my own person. Walking back into the house, I felt like my senior year self. And so then I struggled because I loved my family. I loved being there. but I didn't feel like I was a kid anymore because I had to be independent and on my own. So walking back in, now I'm back under parents. Now I'm one of, the siblings. So it was just a lot of adjusting back and forth between these stages of life.
I think sometimes the college students can be very surprised by how different they feel coming home.
Yes.
And
yes.
how I mean, we could have a whole show on how the oldest leaving affects the younger siblings.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, each sibling that leaves, it definitely affects. But that first time is, they've never experienced an older sibling leaving. And then they don't know what it's like to have them come back and in and out of the house. And it's hard on the younger siblings. They have their own sadnesses and feelings of loss.
They really do. And it's hard to know how to help them. But you're right. There is a lot there with the family dynamic. And we had to call it what it was. We kind of had a moment over Christmas break because she was home almost a month that we had to sit down and say, look, this is hard for each of you. She's been gone, but now she's back and she's still one of ours. Like this is our family unit. She's just in and out. They had to relearn how to function more fluidly with her in and out now.
All right. So what do you think were the biggest challenges for you during that first year, Mindy, like as the mom?
Different situations brought up different emotions in me that I struggled with. It's hard enough to not see your child at the end and the beginning of every day. Even if they're gone or you're gone all day, there's something about your child being in bed at night, knowing everybody's safe and sound, that you can sleep soundly. You don't have that the first year of college.
Right.
And I had to really get used to going to sleep knowing she was still awake. And places I don't know. Like I knew she would be walking home from the library and I would just really pray for her safety. I had to learn to let her go. I had to pray and trust that the Lord was going to take care of her and that I wasn't going to know that she was tucked safely and soundly in her bed at night before I went to sleep. So that was a big adjustment. But then there were other things. Abby Ray got really sick. She ended up with mono. It was really hard to be distant, to be so far away, to not be able to go be with her, help her, know that she was okay. And I had to, I had to kind of allow her to handle it on her own. I was there to talk on the phone, but I couldn't go get her food. I couldn't, buy her medicine. But it was really cool because her roommate Rose and her friend group really stepped in, and Abby spent quite a few days in bed and they brought her food and they checked on her. And this is where I'm so thankful she wasn't behind a closed door by herself. When I turned 40 in January, I was so sad that she was gone, and her birthday was the next month. She turned 19. Those birthdays were really hard. I loved planning and celebrating her birthday. And she is the kind of the main one in our house that would celebrate me. Boys are just really different and not thinking about things like a girl might. And so she always tried to make my day special. And I loved planning her parties. And so I wasn't there to plan anything. And it was so cool because I just really prayed about it again. And it's amazing. But Rose planned Abby's birthday and she knew. I just feel like Rose stepped in like when we stepped out because she really made the day special, so special for Abby. And it brought me even more joy than if I had done it. I was surprised because I could see her thriving and I had nothing to do with it. So she was surrounded by these friends and I realized, wow, by us having to be taken out, the Lord provided people.
Yeah.
And he really blessed her. And so I have been, sad that I can't be there. At the same time, it's forced me to just really pray and let go And now I get to see these things that brought me so much joy I would have never guessed.
Yes. And I think that you have a unique situation in being so far away. So you really were forced to take your hands off the wheel of control.
Yes.
But that is true just in general for college parents. We all have to learn to take a step back. And like you said, you're not going to know what time they necessarily went to bed. And
right.
You're not going to be there when they're feeling sad, or you might not be there to celebrate a holiday or a birthday. And those are hard, especially that first year. You just don't know how it's going to feel.
Right. I was able to go down and visit her one time during the first semester and another time during the second semester. And those were such joyful occasions. I drove by myself and I got to stay in her dorm room, and she got to show me her life. She invited me to stay in her room, and her friends planned a movie night and I got to be there. They like to have brunch together and I got to be there. And then we did some stuff on our own. And then I got to go to the church that she had taken the time to pick out on her own. She had gone to several churches, and this was her church. I had nothing to do with it. And I got to go and be a part of that. And I loved seeing the life she built. And I was so proud of her. That visit just meant the world to me because I had all these wanderings in my mind and questions in my mind. But when I got to see the fruition of how the Lord had grown her, by herself without me, I was so proud of her.
And that's really what gives us peace as parents, is to see them okay and thriving. And if we can know that and see it with our own eyes, it really makes us feel better about stepping back.
It was so hard those months that you don't know, but being able to walk in and see her thriving. When we first moved to Pennsylvania, my thought was, oh, she's coming up here. I'm going to find her a nursing school right down the road, and we are moving her up here. But when I went back and I saw her life, I knew I couldn't. I will not take her out of a place she loves, away from, I'll call it her family that she's made, her church home that she picked and she's growing in. Why would I do that? That would be so selfish of me.
Right.
And as much as I want her with me, again, it's one of those things that as a parent, like, you let go because it's better for them. She's growing up. She's doing exactly what we wanted her to do in life. And that's be a content, joyful, thriving adult.
All right. So you are almost done. You are going to pick her up and bring her home for the summer very soon. Yes. So what are the biggest takeaways from this first year? And is there anything you wish you could go back and change?
Well, if I could emphasize one thing, that is to pray. It is to lead your child to the Lord in prayer, because this isn't just me praying, but this is Abby Ray praying on her own as well and learning to trust the Lord. And I came to the realization that the Lord took me out of her life so that she could learn to cling to Him more fully. And that is really hard. My situation with us having moved adds a dynamic that not everyone deals with. And I understand that, but that is our life. And ironically, I just learned that I have to trust her in the Lord's hands. If I could go back and change anything, I don't know that I would, because I'm so thankful with how she has done this year, the ups and downs, the sicknesses, the sadnesses. I wouldn't change any of it because she's really grown up and she's had to grow more independent. And I'm thankful I'm able to say that this year has been good, but just, one step at a time.
Right. You make it through that first year. And I think we all look back and are amazed at how much our child learns and grows when we weren't there every day.
Right.
And it's sad in a way because we want to be essential. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, we weren't essential for that. Actually, we had to get out of the way for that growth to
I
occur.
know.
And
I know.
that's
It's
hard as a mom to accept. You're happy about it, but you also feel less needed on a certain level.
right. Right.
We're working ourselves out of a job, Mindy.
I know. I know. Yeah. I mean, you do feel like you come to this point that you've prepared your child. You've gone through all the schooling. You get to this point of sending them off, and you're like, what do I do now? But you're still parenting. It's just very different. I remember you telling me, Marie, and this meant a lot to me. You said, I was so worked up about Abigail leaving. And then she came home like a month later or something like that. And it was like, okay, like she's still my child. We still have a relationship. It's not that things end. It's not that you lose your child to college. It's that you interact with them differently. So I loved that you told me that, because you don't realize life continues sometimes. You don't realize that there's another stage, and it's actually very enjoyable. I love the stage that she's in.
Yeah. So moms out there, if you keep on thinking you only have 18 years as a parent, that's not true. Parenting young adults and college students and probably at any age we go through is very enjoyable. It has its own awesomeness.
It does. It does. And it's neat because I can treat her more like an adult. Like I had struggles of my own with moving so far from my friends and from Knoxville. I wouldn't tell her everything, probably like she doesn't tell me everything, but I would give her more details. I would tell her, I'm struggling. Whereas if she lived in my house, I wouldn't sit her down and like, Abby, I'm really struggling. But it changed this year, and she thanked me for being more real with her. And so that was something that changed for our relationship. Is I said, like, I'm really struggling with this. This is a hard day, and I don't understand these certain things. And she would pray for me, and she would encourage me. I think even allowing myself to open up to her more as a friend this year gave us a better intimacy. I do see her more as a friend, though she's still my daughter.
And I think we can start to do that more once someone has moved out from under our authority.
Yes.
Then we can be more of a friend.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful place to get to.
Yes. And you've given me hope too, because next I think, wow, when she gets married, I'm going to lose my daughter forever. But I see that you and Steve just did this trip with Abigail and Nick, and that gives me hope. I'm like, you guys are doing things as couples, and you're continuing that relationship with Abigail, even though she's married. So I'm thankful to even see down the road.
Yes.
that you still don't lose your child when they get married.
One of the good things about having friends that are a little ahead of you is you can see that.
Yes. I love it. I tell you, I really do.
Well, good. Well, we hope that this was encouraging to moms that are out there.
It's so enjoyable to go back through it and talk about it.
Well, good.
So thank you. Thanks for wanting to do this topic.
All right. We'll talk to you next week, Mindy.
Sounds great. Thanks, Marie. See ya.
Bye.
Friends, we're so glad you joined us today. If you enjoy Midlife Matters, we hope you'll tell a friend. Show them how to find us on their phone and hit the free subscribe button so that they never miss an episode. They can also download and listen to each episode right from our website, midlifematterspodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Midlife Matters Podcast. You can also email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday. Bye.